The Heat continue to be ridiculously inconsistent, losing to the Atlanta Hawks on Tuesday, even as the team celebrated its 2006 championship. But with several teams around the league making moves earlier in the day, Wes, is this a sign that Miami has to do something before the trade deadline?
David, yes.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making us your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang and become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, you could bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat Media members who cover this team every day. Quite the scene here at Kaseya Center. I'm recording from a room downstairs after this mess of a loss against the Atlanta Hawks. Like I said, just a mess of a game. I don't know that anybody played well in this one, David. We'll get to how this relates to the 2006 championship ceremony and the celebration on the 20-year anniversary of all of that. We'll get to the latest Giannis trade intel and then other moves that have been made across the league ahead of Thursday's trade deadline. But starting with the game, what was your takeaway from this one?
Oh, just a complete discombobulated mess. Like we saw a team that just, first of all, that starting lineup, they're 17th of the season. Simone Fontecchio getting the start. Myron Gardner getting the starting nod.
Yeah, no Tyler Hero, no Norm Powell, and no Andrew Wiggins in this one.
Right. So it was a very, very strange lineup. Not sure it worked. And I know it didn't work.
Safe to say it did not. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just felt like nobody had any kind of steady momentum. And the Atlanta Hawks, opposed to what they were last year, they're not a good defensive team this year, near the bottom half of the league, and they played defense very well against Miami, and like Miami just seemed very much made uncomfortable. They just didn't seem to get into any kind of rhythm offensively. They didn't have a go-to scorer. Nobody was able to create any sort of offense. Their three-point shooting was absolutely abysmal without Powell or Wiggins on there. So it was just a really bad showing overall. Like there was nothing good about this Miami game aside from the celebration of the 2006 championship, and it's just sad to know that you can't celebrate a title and get a win at the same time. And again, I texted you before the game or during the game, this series of halftime events, whether it's honoring Udonis Haslem or Dwayne Wade or Erik Spoelstra or the U.S. Olympic team or anything like that, I don't think they've won a single game where any of these events have taken place. It just seems like you're celebrating one thing, but at the same time, what's currently out on the floor is not good. And so what an interesting juxtaposition on the night when you're celebrating the team's first championship and you can't even beat a lowly Hawks team.
I think they won the game where Flo Rida did a concert at halftime. Maybe just have him do it. just have him do it. Just keep just ride the Flo Rida wave at this point. Look, it's a good observation, David, and if I were to venture to make any sort of takeaway from this game, which I don't, with everything going on, and we're going to talk about the trade deadline and everything that means looming over this team, the celebration of the 2006 championship, and just the weird juxtaposition between all of this happening right now, if I were to venture to make some kind of takeaway, provide some sort of analysis on this game, I look at 21 made three-pointers by the Atlanta Hawks. And I say, yep, there's your ball game. I thought the Heat won on the other margins, right? They won the offensive rebounding battle. They won. They didn't win the turnover battle, but it wasn't so egregious that cost them the game. They missed a bunch of shots, and the Heat don't defend well when they miss shots. Breaking news: very few teams do. But you're not making shots, but you're allowing 21 threes from the Hawks there. I thought their closeouts were a mess. I thought this reminded me a lot of that Saturday night blowout against the Chicago Bulls, where it just looked like a Heat team that didn't feel like showing up. And it is something so rare that we've seen. Even the worst moments from this Miami Heat team over the last 2 years, you rarely saw it where this team just looked distracted or lacking urgency or wasn't playing as hard as the opponent. And 2 times in the last handful of games, we've seen that. Again, Chicago Saturday night, they come back, they beat them on Sunday night. And then this game against Atlanta, which is right before, it's your last game before the trade deadline. And I can't help but think that that was a distraction. And being in the locker room today and all this, and obviously nobody's talking about it. Nobody's going to fess up and say it is a distraction. It is clearly a distraction. Everybody on the team outside of Bam Adebayo is wondering if they're going to be on this thing by the time the Heat play their next game against the Celtics on Friday, right? It's natural to be a little distracted right now. But the thing I can't get over, David, is the juxtaposition between this listless mess of a game against, to your point, the lowly Atlanta Hawks. They were also missing a bunch of players.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2006 championship celebration. You lose to the Hawks on the night that they honor the 2006 championship team. You're down 17 points at halftime. And I don't know if they showed this on the broadcast. I'm sure they did. The Heat players on the roster right now walking into that halftime locker room and on their way to the locker room, down 17 points, shaking hands with the championship 2006 team. How, if you're the front office, do you look at this team and have any sort of attachment to it whatsoever after what we saw tonight? You have a chance to make your Shaq trade right now by landing Giannis. Get it done. Get it done. No lines in the sand. There's nothing on this roster to be precious with. There's plenty of players that we like. But what are you holding on to? A middling team on the verge of a play-in tournament appearance again? I don't want to hear about depth issues or youth or the CBA or this and that. You have an opportunity to go get one of the best 3 players in the league. You have an opportunity as the Miami Heat to do the Shaq trade again by getting Giannis. Get it done. And I don't know how, if you're this front office, you're watching all of this and you're not inspired by seeing that 2016 back there on the court and being like, oh yeah, that's what a championship team looks like. That's the kind of talent it takes to go ahead and compete for a championship. And frankly, it's something that this roster currently lacks.
Look, you know how I feel about the trade for Giannis. My hesitation, and it's ever just so slight. I feel like you're 100% right. You have a chance to land Giannis, that's fine. My thought process, though, is like, what are you going to have on this roster afterwards? The idea of trading away a young core of Lamar Odom, Caron Butler, and Brian Grant for Shaq is different because, well, who's on the roster still after that trade is Dwayne Wade. And while you're keeping Bam Adebayo in whatever deal you make for Giannis, that's not going to get it done. That duo was not enough. So you're going to need to surround them with something. And I don't know what that something is. Now, I mean, if you're keeping Norm Powell on this deal, or if you're just, I don't know what else you're going to be able to keep on this roster afterwards. I don't know if that's necessarily going to be enough, but at least it's a start. You don't have that other complementary star. I mean, Bam and Giannis, they're both stars. One is clearly better than the other. At the same time, there are concerns about the fit, and I get it. Given Bam's lack of aggression and lack of production at times, I don't know that those two are necessarily going to be the best fit. It's not going to be as seamless as, say, Dwayne Wade and Shaquille O'Neal back in 2004. So, I think that there is a point of contention there. There is a right to hesitate a little bit from the front office that they don't want to include everything. But at the end of the day, I think your point is still a valid one. Do whatever it takes. And if that means that you're going to have to wind up including a Jaime Jaquez Jr. or Kasper Siakis or any other young player, well, then so be it. Maybe just figure it out later, These players weren't even on the roster 4 years ago, so it's not like you've got that much of attachment to them. So now's the time to make that move for that superstar, and then you'll figure it out after you get that star in.
The hardest thing to do is to get the superstar. It's far easier to find other role players. And I don't mean to diminish the guys who are on the roster right now necessarily, but none of them are Giannis, and none of them will ever be Giannis or even close to being as good as Giannis. The hardest thing to do is get that number one guy. And you either get it now with Giannis, or you take even more dramatic procedures to get it within the next few years. but you got to do it. Because we're interviewing Shaquille O'Neal and Dwayne Wade before the game tonight, and I'm like, there's just an energy, a star power that these players have, just a talent level, man. And, Erik Spoelstra, again, after the game, is talking about the lack of consistency and sustainability. And I don't know how many more times I have to hear it. I remind everybody as many times as I could possibly say it. The superpower is the consistency. LeBron James and Giannis and Dwayne Wade and Shaq, they were them because of their consistency, not because of their best games. It's because their worst games were never that bad. Anybody can have a great game. We've seen it time and time again. The consistency is the superpower. And it's not a mystery to me about why this team isn't consistent. It's because it's not talented enough. When you're talented, you're a lot more consistent. That's the superpower. A ton more to get to. We're gonna forget about this game because there's not very much interesting to talk about from it. But we are going to talk about everything going on around the league right now. A ton to get to in terms of other NBA trade deadline moves. James Harden's on the move. Jaren Jackson Jr. surprise trade to the Utah Jazz, and we have more intel on the latest on Giannis, all coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite or riding with the underdog or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game that everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, where stats turn into storylines, and every step feels bigger. It's a perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting, from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, you can bet just $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season's over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Today's episode also brought to you by Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at that messier parts of how we run our businesses and think, well, there has to be a better way. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. You'll love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number. Nothing will get missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and much more personal. And it works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And Quo's smart AI tools automatically log calls, summarize conversations, and highlight next steps, so details never slip through the cracks. It's no surprise that Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams like yours. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus you get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's QUO.com/lockedonnba. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We'll be right back.
As you might have heard us mention on the show, we recently launched a new subscription program called the Everydayer Club that includes ad-free shows and access to a group chat for Heat fans on Discord. Well, this week, we're launching a new all-access tier as part of that program that includes even more. If you sign up, you're going to get the perks that I just mentioned, plus the ability to text me and David directly, submit questions for post-game shows like this, and subscriber-exclusive episodes of Locked On Heat. The daily show isn't going anywhere. It's always going to be free. We can't thank you enough for being a listener and supporting what we do every day, but if you're looking for another way to support us, we'd love for you to check this out. If you're interested in joining the Cookie Gang, tap the link in the show notes or head to lockedonheat.supercast.com to learn more. And if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use the code DEADLINE to get your first month for free. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. David, scenes from Kaseya Center on this night. During the third quarter, a bunch of fans were trying to get a "We want Giannis" chant going, and it was pretty successful there for about a minute or two. Latest intel on Giannis sounds like, based on today, that the Timberwolves are making moves to try to get Giannis. They're being aggressive. The Timberwolves made an interesting deal to shed Mike Conley's contract. So they're clearly maneuvering here. That's what they did. Clearly the first move of a second move. Now, whether or not that second move is Giannis or, getting somebody a little bit younger and a replacement at that point guard spot, I think the Minnesota Timberwolves are open to both. Obviously, the preference being Giannis. Maybe there's a backup plan there. But they are clearly working on trying to sweeten their potential package for Giannis. We know Timberwolves GM Tim Connolly has been very aggressive on the trade market in the past. Gobert, Cat, all those things. So right now, all eyes, I think, are on Minnesota. Still questions about whether or not they're able to put the stuff together that's going to take to get Giannis. Just trading Conley's contract obviously isn't enough. We'll see what else happens there, David.
Yeah, what's the proposed deal there? Was it Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo? What else? What else are they going to?
I would imagine it's McDaniels going somewhere for a bunch of draft picks, and then those pieces that you're talking about maybe going back to Milwaukee. I don't know. I honestly struggle to figure out, I got on the trade machine thinking as a Timberwolves fan, how can I get this done? And the hurdle I kept coming back to is, what's the piece going back to Milwaukee other than a bunch of draft picks that they perhaps get from a Jaden McDaniels trade that makes sense for the Bucks?
Yeah, and that's not, again, the expectation is if you have Anthony Edwards and Giannis Antetokounmpo, those picks are going to be as valuable as you might think. So it's not like that's exactly the kind of asset that a lot of fans might think.
Well, it'd be if you trade for picks, it would be somebody else's picks, right?
Well, either way, then. I guess it's an interesting deal, and I think a lot of people are interested to see if Edwards and Giannis is the pairing that's shaping up there. But my concern when I see the deal is the lack of activity from Miami, because it feels like if they haven't accepted Miami's offer, either Miami's waiting to sweeten their deal somehow by adding either one more young player. I don't think there's anything else that you could possibly add from Miami's side. It's not like they're holding off any draft picks because they don't have that many to offer in the first place. So it's either a certain player that's maybe the line in the sand that they're not willing to cross, or that they haven't included in the final deal. Maybe they're just in the middle of negotiations, or that, again, maybe there's another move to be made prior to that. And that's where my concern is. And we're seeing other teams make moves, and Miami is strangely quiet. So that's where I'm kind of concerned about how far in they're willing to go for this Giannis deal, because either you have to make a move now to sweeten the deal by getting something in return and including that in the total trade package, or Milwaukee's just no, we're just not interested in your cadre of young players. We think Jaime Jaquez is fine. Yeah. That doesn't move us necessarily. Yeah. So I don't know. It feels like at this point, honestly, I'm not sure that Miami's going to be able to finish the deal for Giannis. This isn't just me being pessimistic. I just feel like something else has to happen, because if Milwaukee was going to take the deal, they probably would have taken it by now, unless they're waiting.
Yeah,
because either the
deadline's not until Thursday. Why do anything?
Either they think Miami's deal is good enough, or they think that there's the potential for another team to make an even better deal. If that's the case, well, then there's the likelihood is that another team would make. If Milwaukee's telling you, look, you're this close to getting Giannis, you can get it done if you do X or Y. What would stop a team from doing X or Y? If that's all it takes.
Okay, so if I was going to extend the poker metaphor, right, as we always say, are the Heat all in? If I was going to extend the poker metaphor here, I think the Heat have played their hand. I think they are all in at this point.
Sure.
And now, if we're looking across the poker table, next to the Miami Heat, perhaps is Tim Connolly and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now it's their turn to play their hand, to decide whether or not they're going to go all in. And if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, the deadline's not until Thursday. I know what Miami's best offer is, but why am I in a rush? Let's see what Minnesota could drum up, right? Let's see what you got, Minnesota Timberwolves. Can you beat this offer? And if you can, great. And if not, maybe we take the Miami offer. I don't see any reason why the Bucks would have made a move today. So yeah, why not? You're trading your franchise player. You bring this thing, you go all the way down to now we are hearing new reports from, I think it was Kel'el at Yahoo Sports, that the Bucks are not necessarily in a rush to do anything. They don't feel any pressure to trade Giannis before the deadline. Maybe that's true, right? I heard Zach Lowe say that there's a lot of people in the league right now that would put it at 80-20, 80% Giannis is still on the Bucks after the deadline. This to me feels like posturing. I have no reporting on this, but I just know the timing of this. it does feel, David, like it's a lot of right before the end here, a negotiating tactic of, hey, these are the offers we have, but maybe we won't take any of them. What else you got, right? What's a little bit of sweetener that you could throw in at the very last minute to push us over the edge so that we trade our franchise player? So I think, again, no reporting on this, but just my sense reading the tea leaves is that this is a little bit of posturing. I do think, you and I talked about this yesterday, we agree. Our feel is, if I had to bet on something, I think that Giannis gets traded. It's probably closer to 50-50 than it is 80-20 at this point before the deadline. But that's where we are. And I also think that the Heat are probably trying to work on something, right? Like, why wouldn't you? If you're the Heat's front office, like, is there a move out there where you can get one more first-round pick to throw into this deal, something that's within the next couple of years? Because right now Miami's picks are 2030, 2032. Can you get one more in 2026 or 2027 that you could throw Milwaukee's way that they could feel good about? Hey, we got one pick that we're going to be able to use in the next couple of years that I know if I'm the GM of the Bucks, I'm not going to be fired before I have the chance to make that selection, right? I do think that stuff's out there. So who knows what else happens?
Is Wiggins' inability to go tonight, is that tied to the possibility that they set him? A lot of people are thinking that that's the case, that they set down these players because they're likely on their way out, or they want to risk an injury the day before they get traded or something like that.
Who's to say, right? Norm Powell's also been out with personal reasons. I don't want to make light of that because I don't know what it is, to be honest. But people are always going to point to that stuff too. Wiggins was here, right? It was not like they just left him away from the team, but he was there on the bench. He was in the locker room. The Heat are also not practicing on Wednesday. They're practicing Thursday instead.
That's strange.
A little weird. A little strange. I want to ask you about the James Harden thing. James Harden to the Cavs. Really quick, David. Thoughts?
I think it absolutely torpedoes Cleveland's chances at making a deep playoff run.
Desperation move, right? Ahead of, if this Giannis thing doesn't work out, it kind of feels like we might be having this Donovan Mitchell conversation again this summer. I don't even want to go there right now. I still got Giannis. We still have Ja Morant to deal with potentially. We have a question about that. We'll get to all of that coming up next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. But that's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You pull up the Game Time app, you pick an upcoming NBA game, and you get tickets locked in within minutes. That's what you love about Game Time. Plus, they've got so many great features. It's the all-in price that you see up front. No surprise fees at checkout. There's the great views for the seats, so you can tell exactly what the view from your seat is going to be. What a great feature. If you're in an arena you've never been to or a venue you've never seen before, you know exactly what the stage is going to look like or what the court's going to look like because of Game Time. And their deals are second to none. You get the best prices right up to tip off. You know exactly what's going to happen. And you know what? And next time, you might wind up saving much more money than you could possibly expect to for NBA tickets. Everything feels quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON. You get $20 off your first purchase. That's code LOCKEDON. You get $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. We'll be right back.
Let's go to our questions from the Cookie Gang. You can submit questions to the post-game shows by joining the Everydayer Club. Tap the link in the show notes to learn more. David, we got a bunch of questions, 8 or 9 questions here, so let's try to be like 60 seconds on each of these so that we can get through all of them. Flavio writes in, I hate to say it, but after this game, the only question is, are we going to get Giannis? Zay also writes in, I don't care about this game, but do you believe it to be a leverage play by the Bucks with all this Minnesota smoke, or do we have to brace ourselves and give up on the Giannis chase? My answer to this, my quick answer to this, David, everything is leverage right now. Everything you hear, any bit of reporting, it's all leverage right now. But it doesn't make it not real either. I do think the Timberwolves are trying to position themselves to get Giannis. We'll see if they can, just like we talked about here. Is it also leveraged by the Milwaukee Bucks? You bet it is. They're trying to get the best offer possible. If they could play the teams off of each other in order to drum up the ultimate package that they get for Giannis, the better they are for it.
Absolutely. Don't give up hope until the very last second. You never know what could change. But yeah, it is a lot of posturing around the league, a lot of shadows, a lot of smoke, a lot of small moves being made here and there, and conversations being had. So we'll see. Nothing is finalized until we hear the final deal get announced. So at this point in time, you can always be optimistic and hope for something to get done.
Might be a good thing that we're not hearing anything from the Miami Heat, right?
They do tend to operate secretly like that.
They do. Adam writes in, is it me or does this team really need to make a trade? This team is so amazingly inconsistent. Malachi writes in, the Heat need to get a trade done for Ja Morant, 2 exclamation points. It's an easy slam dunk trade. The Grizzlies are trading players to get younger and the Heat need a star. I still believe Ja Morant has star potential. I'm not there yet. Okay, you are. If they miss out on Giannis, if Giannis gets traded, or maybe if he doesn't get traded, but he's still on the Bucks, if it's clear that you're not getting Giannis, I do wonder if the Heat make an 11th hour call to Memphis right before the deadline at like 2:45 p.m. Eastern time on Thursday and say, okay, we're not getting Giannis. We'll give you Rozier and Simone for Ja Morant. Take it or leave it. And just to shake it up, because it does feel like something's got it. Like this team just needs like a shake. So maybe there's something there. Sam writes in, has Spo's treatment of Kel'el over the course of this year and even the summer affected the way that the Bucks front office will view Kel'el Ware as an asset, especially since he's seen as the centerpiece of the Giannis trade? I think this is a great question, David. And
no.
Yeah. No?
No.
Okay.
No. Do you think other teams care about how a coach treats one player? Because it just feels like such a one-off. Like I understand Spo has a reputation he does and everything else like that, but I think teams view players and they're looking at them and analyzing what it is that they do well and don't do well, and that's what their scouting department is for. And then the hope is he's got a lot of potential. He's going to be able to realize that here. And yeah, you wonder about why he hasn't been given free reign in Miami, but at the same time, I don't think it's I don't think it scares teams off. I don't think that's how they tend to operate. I think you see what you like and you perceive them as a diamond in your rough in the hope that our system can save them. Ours is a system that is going to get them to reach their full potential, regardless of what happened in Miami or with Erik Spoelstra. So I don't think his treatment says anything. I don't think it puts any kind of negative stink on Kel'el or his reputation or his ability. And so if a Milwaukee team is wondering whether or not Ware is going to be able to bloom for them, I think they're going to look at what he's been able to accomplish so far. They're going to look at the games that he's thrived, and they're going to look at the games where he's struggled and make their own determination, not based on Miami's inconsistent minutes.
To your point, right? They have their own scouting department. They have their own scouts across the league. They'll make their own decision on Kel'el Ware. They've scouted him, I'm sure, coming into the draft, right? So they've got an opinion on Kel'el regardless of how Spo treats him. I think it's a fair point. It's not a great look though that he's not like. Look, he played 18 minutes tonight. That's not a ton of minutes, but it was garbage time a lot of this game too. He was a minus 12. Like, he wasn't good in this game. He hasn't been good lately. You want to blame Spo for him not playing well? All right, maybe you could tell me that he lost confidence after Spo took him out of the starting lineup. Whatever. Like, whatever the thing is. I will swerve on this, though, and say, what if Spo is actually helping Kel'el's value by not playing him as much? Like, what if Spo's onto something where, hey, like Kel'el Ware does have one of the worst plus minuses on the team. What if playing him 30 minutes a night was going to expose Kel'el? What if he's protecting Kel'el's value by limiting his minutes? Mystery door number 3 over here is Kel'el Ware with more minutes. Maybe he could be better for you. We're so dumb that we're not playing him enough minutes. Like, that's a possibility now for Milwaukee. I don't know. I'm just flipping it. Billy writes in, does Pella want to get traded because he's putting himself into a position where there's no way Milwaukee doesn't ask for him? We talked about this on a recent show, David, but at the end of this game, I was kind of saying, get Pella out of the game, man. Like, I said at the beginning of the show, I don't think anybody played well. The exception would have been Pella Larson. This guy always plays hard.
Yeah, I guess It depends on what team is acquiring him too, like or Milwaukee or anybody else. Like, is there going to be an obvious need? Is there going to be a place for him? And we've seen, as I said before, that role players tend to succeed in Miami. They don't tend to succeed elsewhere. So I don't know if that's still going to be the case. He's a great value contract, but again, there's limited athleticism. There's a limited ceiling. I don't know that anybody's looking at Pelle Larsson and see star potential. Now he's a nice throw-in. He's a nice throw-in to a deal.
No, you're doing a good job. Keep talking him down.
Yeah, I don't think I don't think the Bucks' willingness to trade Giannis to Miami is based on whether or not they land Pelle Larsson.
Pat writes in, what's the point of being a play-in team every year? Why not blow it up? Trade guys for picks. Future could be bright with like Charlotte, OKC. The Grizzlies have all these picks. Clearly, as much as I love this group, it's not going anywhere. Y'all the GOAT pod. Hey, take the compliment at the end there.
We'll take the win. We'll take the win.
Take the win. Yeah, I mean, look, if they don't get Giannis here, I think you do have to have some really tough conversations. Not immediately, but coming up here eventually.
I love the play-in tournament. I'm so excited. I love
the Miami-Chicago Invitational. Let's go. Denzel writes in, is Spo holding the team back? Seems like Spo could be in the way of the team's success due to his traditions.
It's interesting.
Holding them back from what?
Yeah, I don't know either. I guess the question is Kel'el, like he's the focal point, and you know what? It's almost like when Marcus Smart used to hit a three earlier in the game. He used to fall in love with that shot and used to shoot the Celtics out of those games. It's kind of like the big production from Kel'el has kind of warped everybody's brain a little bit, like his staunchest fans, and they see him thriving. They see those big moments, and they're like, it's Spo. Spo's the one killing his potential. And then, as you've pointed out before, there are those games when he does play where he's lost on defense, where he's not as physical as he needs to be, where he's just not a factor. And so I think, as always, as most of the time it is within life, it's probably something in between. Is Spo holding him back? I think he did do something to affect his confidence, because I think yanking him out of the starting lineup probably hurt Kel'el in a way that maybe he wasn't prepared for. And at the same time, it's also up to Kel'el to be able to go onto the floor and make the most of those minutes, whether they're 3 or 10 or 15 or 35. You got to go out there and earn your case. You got to go and prove yourself every time you're on the floor. And he hasn't done that. So I don't think it's Spo, but I'd say Spo probably mishandled it to a certain degree.
I'm on record as saying last season was not Spo's strongest season as the head coach of the Miami Heat. I've disagreed with some of the moves that he's made this season in terms of the rotation, in terms of just some play calls and schematic things, whatever. But I've made this joke before, and I'll make it again, but I'm going to change it a little bit. Holding this team back from what? We could talk about the rotations and the substitution patterns and who starts and who finishes and who comes off the bench, whatever. It's not like Kevin Durant is sitting on the bench and you're just not playing him. The roster is the roster, and if we're going to talk about playing Kel'el Ware 25 minutes starting or 18 minutes coming off the bench, is he holding is that the difference between this team being a play-in team and a contender? No, it's not. Kevin Durant's not sitting on the bench, but I'm going to change it. Giannis isn't sitting on the bench. Not yet, at least. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in to Locked On Heat. We'll be back tomorrow with, of course, a lot more on the trade deadline, the latest trade deadline intel, and I'm sure maybe some moves will be done between now and then. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Heat so you get all of the latest episodes.